stars of animation are shining. It's time to stay tuned. And now, here's your host, Phil Machi.
Hiya folks, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me for this Season 2 premiere episode. I'm absolutely thrilled to be back to talk with the incredible people behind our favorite animated shows. And let me tell you, we are starting things off right. My first guest of the season is definitely worth getting excited over. He was nominated for an Academy Award when he splashed onto the animation scene back in 1987 with his original short film, Your Face. Since then, he has left an indelible mark on the medium of traditional animation with his visceral style and absurdist subject matter. He's contributed multiple times to the opening credits couch gags on The Simpsons, and his most recent feature film, Revengeance, was a grand jury prize winner at the 2017 Nashville Film Festival. Respected internationally as a true rock star of the animation world, Bill Plympton is here to discuss his independent animated films and so much more in just a few moments. But first, this. Bill Plympton, welcome to Stay Tuned.
Thank you for having me on. I'm very excited about it.
Awesome. I'm really excited about it because, I became acquainted with your work before the internet was really a thing.
Wow, that's a long time ago. That's a long time ago.
It is a long time ago. And I think it really says something that your cartoons have stayed, I'm sure with a lot of people, but I can only speak for myself. They've stayed with me all these years. And I think it's because you have one of the most recognizable styles.
Uh-huh.
Can you tell me about when you fully realized and embraced that style in order to cultivate it where it is today?
Yeah, I kind of accidentally started drawing that way back in, when I was about 10 years old, maybe 12 years old. I was drawing a picture of my folks' house, my house, and I think I made a mistake and I just kind of sketched over it, and then I kind of liked that look of that, and I just started being more sketchy and kind of impressionistic, and I sort of took that pen and ink style and adapted it to my cartoons, and then it sort of felt comfortable, and I've been drawing that way ever since.
So you're saying it was a recognized happy accident?
Yes. And a lot of the computer stuff that you see now is all hard-edged and straight lines and straight circles, and I like the more human feeling, the human hand, and where there's a lot of mistakes and there's a lot of rough edges and a lot of soft cross-hatching and things like that, sketchy cross-hatching, and that just feels more comfortable to me.
It's more organic looking, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's a good word.
Yeah. I don't know if I can use the word rock star in terms of animation, but I feel like you're like one of the rock star animators out there.
Well, it's nice of you to say that, but quite frankly, I don't think I am. I'm a long ways from that, really. I mean, only rarely do I get recognized on the street, and I'm actually more well-known in France, where people recognize me on the street. But here, it's or maybe people are just too shy to approach me, but very rarely do I get recognized.
Well, that's interesting you point that out, because I think your work does have a very European flair to it.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
Yeah. I think I first got acquainted with your work for the short film that you made called Your Face.
Yeah, that's the one that really broke open my career. And what happened was is very rare. Usually the first film doesn't do very well, but my first film, for some reason, just connected with everybody. And it was, got nominated for an Oscar. It won awards all over the world. I sold it to MTV, among other places, and that really started bringing in the money. So I don't know if I was lucky or just the timing was right. It just was very weird why that film was so successful.
It could be a combination of things that, right place, right time, and it's just the right kind of film that was needed.
Well, another thing that sort of helped was that for 15 years I was a political cartoonist and caricature artist, an illustrator. So I didn't really do any animation. So up until that time, I had had sort of stockpiled ideas that are films I wanted to make. So I think when I did it, I was fully prepared to make a really good film. I knew how to draw, I knew how to tell a story, I knew what kind of music I wanted, and so I was, I think 35 or 40 when I did that. I think 35 actually. So I was adult, I was mature, and that may have helped with the success of the film.
Do you ever look back on it and feel like it still holds up?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I don't know if you're aware, but I just did a couch gag for The Simpsons.
Yes.
Where I
yes.
used Homer's face and adapted it to the film.
I'm very aware.
People, of course, recognized it, and it still works. The gags still work, and it's still a funny concept.
That was your second couch gag, right?
No, it's my fifth or sixth, I think. I'm doing another one soon. In fact, a little bit of a funny story last night. The Simpsons had their 30th anniversary celebration at the Tribeca Film Festival.
Okay.
And a friend of mine got me a ticket to it. And so I was sitting there, and up on the stage was Al Jean, their producer, and Matt Groening, of course, and Yardley Smith, and Harry Shearer. One of them stood up and says, "In the crowd, we have Bill Plympton." So I stood up, and so they invited me backstage, and took a lot of photographs and everything. It's very cool because I've been doing a lot of stuff for The Simpsons, and I'm really happy to be doing it. It's such an important TV show for America and for the world. Everybody over the world watches.
Absolutely, and I think it's a testament to what I was saying earlier. People in the industry definitely respect you and your work, so I think you should be aware of that.
Yeah, it's a nice situation to be in, and so I hope I can continue doing more couch gags for The Simpsons. It's a great gig.
What always stood out to me seeing your early works was your realization of three-dimensional space and treating traditional animation with the sensibility of like stop-motion clay.
Mm-hmm.
When did you decide to make that a goal that you were trying to achieve with your visuals?
Well, when I was in college, I went to Portland State out in Oregon, and I took a sculpture class, and I took some life drawing classes. And it was there that I tried to give the three-dimensional feel to my drawings, because I love sculpture, and I love the way the shadows, the light and the shadows, the way they play on the sculpture, and how they define the image and define the mass, the weight of the image. So I wanted to transfer those ideas to my drawings. So once I did life drawings like that, that seemed to make sense just to transfer that to my cartoons. And it would feel a lot more realistic and surrealistic. And surrealism is one of the important aspects to my success, because to me, all basis of humor is surrealism.
Oh.
Whether it's literary or visual, if you see something that doesn't make sense, that is surprising, that is absurd, that is bizarre, you'll probably laugh at it. And so that's why I do that. I use that technique.
That's well spoken and makes me wonder immediately if you're a fan of the old Fleischer cartoons.
I am, yes. And in fact, I'm doing a new feature film right now called Slide. And although the Fleischers use jazz, old-time jazz, I'm using old-time country western. And
Okay.
That's a direct influence on the Fleischers, how they used jazz music to enhance their cartoons.
Sure.
So this one will be a feature film about a country western musician back in the 40s who comes into this corrupt lumberjack town, and through his music, he's able to get rid of all the bad people in the town. It's kind of a wacky film, of course, very surreal, very bizarre. It's not high-toned or serious at all. It's just a bizarre musical, kind of a strange sort of Yellow Submarine musical.
Well, that sounds really great. When can we expect to see that?
Oh, well, don't hold your breath. I've got about 15 minutes of animation, so it'll be about 2 years, I think, something like that.
Okay. Well, speaking of long format films, let's talk about Revengeance.
Great. Thank you. I'm glad you want to talk about it.
I do. How different was that process compared to, when you do your shorter works?
Well, I tell you, the big difference is when I do my longer works, because in the past I've done 7 animated features, and they're all written by me and designed by me and animated by me and directed and produced by me. This time I met this guy, his name is Jim Lujan, Lujan, at the Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, because he lives in L.A. And he came up to me and said, he's a big fan, and I get a lot of people that come up to me with those words. And I said, great, and he gave me some of his DVDs, and I get a lot of DVDs, so I don't really have a chance to watch everything that I get. About 2 or 3 years later, I was sort of bored, and I put that thing on, and I was laughing uproariously at the humor and the style and the wit of his dialogue. And so I called him that night. I said, hey, Jim, I love your stuff. Let's do a feature film together. So what happened was he did the script, which I loved. It was a really great script. And he did the character designs, which are different than mine, much more sort of underground and raw and kind of outrageous.
They're kind of Ralph Bakshi a little bit, wouldn't you say, or something like that?
Yeah. That's he likes to use the word underground though, sort of R. Crumb and Rodriguez and all of those guys, Gilbert Shelton, which is true, I think. And he did the music and he did a lot of the voices. So it was only up to me to do the storyboards and the animation. And originally I thought, well, his characters are kind of goofy and kind of badly drawn. I will do the Plympton look on it. I'll make everything real streamlined and much more sophisticated. And it just didn't work. I looked at it and I said, the humor is not right. I got to do Jim's style. And I really got to love it. It is so raw and so kind of primitive. And that to me has its own power because it's kind of gross and just edgy. And so I did the whole film in his style. And then he put on the soundtrack. He did a lot of the music, and as I said, the voices. So it was only up to me to do the production, the animation, and the coloring, and the compositing. So it was a much easier project from my other ones. I think it only took a year, maybe a year and a half, something like that, which is pretty fast for me. Usually it takes me 2 years or 2.5 years, something like that. So it was a fun project, a little vacation, as it were.
Well, you're right about the raw. It feels like an interesting slice of Americana, but very authentic,
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's a good way to put it.
Thanks. Recently, you've taken your political, like you said, the background you have in political cartoons, you've taken that into a really fun direction with your Trump tunes. So What was the impetus for that series?
Well, when Trump became president, I was kind of looking to do something like that, but I didn't know where to show it, how would I sell it, things like that. But ironically, the guys approached me to do it, and I said, yeah, I'd love to. Now, the money wasn't very good. It was pretty low pay, but it was something I felt strongly about and something that I think I was destined to do because I've been doing political cartoons for 15 years. And even before that, I was doing political cartoons. I love doing caricatures. I love doing gags, political gags. And then also I had a career as an animator. So it seemed like I had both disciplines covered. Mm-hmm. And they loved the stuff I did. And I don't know if you heard or not, but the new cartoons just won a Webby.
Oh, nice.
Do you know what a Webby is?
Yeah, congrats.
It's sort of the Oscars for online stuff, which is kind of cool because everybody watches their news now on the internet. They don't really watch TV anymore or read newspapers.
Sure.
So it's really wonderful that I was able to win a Webby, and it sort of gives our show, which is called Trump Bites, a real impetus now to sell and to get distribution. The concept for the Trump Bites is we take Trump's words, his dialogue, which is pretty crazy in itself, and I just adapt animation to it to sort of boost or actually make it even more surreal than it already is.
Well, when I saw them, I thought the combination of your design and sophistication for just the bizarre, it was a really excellent match for the strange sound bites, the real sound bites.
Yeah, the real sound bites.
Yeah, that's what's cool about them is you take actual clips of audio and then you just match these strange, surreal situations with maybe varying sizes of Trump. More with Bill Plympton after this. So I've noticed on your official website you're offering limited time caricatures, right?
Yes, I am. For $100, if you send me 3 of your photos, I will do a caricature of you or your pet or your house or whatever you want. Really, it's kind of fun, kind of a cool way to keep my hand in caricature, which I love. I was sort of born to caricature. I really enjoy it.
That's fantastic. I have a little history myself of being a caricature artist at a theme park when I was in high school. So
Oh my God, that's incredible. How was that experience?
it was, I'll tell you right now, it was probably one of the most humbling things I ever did because the theme park was a bunch of essentially drunk rednecks. So
Yeah.
you had people walking up behind you telling you how bad they thought you were, and you're just trying to make a buck as a teenager. So, I mean, I left that job with a renewed sense of humility.
Yeah, I did that a few times, not at a theme park or a carnival or a park or anything like that, but at meetings or celebrations, weddings, things like that. And it is scary if you make a mistake. If you have someone that's really hard to draw, it's very tough.
The hardest ones to draw, we always joked about it, but it was always the pretty girls because there was nothing for us to exaggerate.
Nothing to exaggerate. I understand. I tell people the same thing.
Yeah, you have a guy with a beard walk up in a cowboy hat and you're in business.
Yeah, that's right. That's easy.
I kind of wanted to mention real quick, it doesn't necessarily fit the animation theme 100%, but I still think it's worth mentioning that you made a film called Hitler's Folly that is a mockumentary, and it was you released the film in its entirety for free on your website, which is really awesome.
Right. Well, first of all, I knew a lot of the characters in the film I would have to purchase rights of, like Walt Disney and I think Mickey Mouse and some other things are in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that would be expensive. I didn't even try to negotiate that stuff. And I suppose I could attempt it on fair use, but I really don't need the hassle. But also, it was an expensive film to make. A lot of it was found footage off the internet, World War II footage, which I think is public domain because it was shot by our government. But I don't think there's anywhere I could sell it on theaters. It's a tough film to show because there are a lot of Hitler stuff and swastikas, and people might accuse me of being a Nazi or something. So I just put it on my website for free if anybody wants to see it, and it's actually doing pretty well. We've been getting a lot of response to it, so that's nice.
That is good, and that website is plymptoons.com, right?
Right. And, when people do complain about how can I use Hitler as a source of humor, Mel Brooks was very successful doing that.
Sure.
And also Tex Avery and Charlie Chaplin.
Absolutely.
A lot of Hollywood filmmakers have used Hitler as a gag. The Three Stooges famously did it too.
Well, it's interesting because he kind of has morphed away from being a person to being a verb. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's an icon. He's sort of the icon of evil. And so, instead of doing the devil or someone like that, it's Hitler's sort of the stand-in now. So I think he's fair game, quite frankly.
Absolutely. When I was in high school learning about American history, I was inspired by Thomas Nast.
Oh, yeah.
Were you also...
I love Thomas.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Thomas Nast early on, but later on is Winsor McCay and A.B. Frost and a few of those guys. I really stole a lot from them. In fact, if you look at some A.B. Frost stuff, you'll see a little bit of my style in there, a little bit of my technique. But I think Winsor McCay, to me, is God. I mean, he was probably the greatest animator who ever lived, and he never really got the credit that was due him. I mean, he's certainly famous for his cartoons in print.
Sure.
But his animation was just phenomenal, and nobody could draw like him. And his imagination was just way out there. I don't know if he did drugs or not, but he was so surreal and so bizarre. So I tried to watch everything he did. In fact, I remade one of his cartoons. I got a lot of static for that, too. It was called The Flying House, which is the last animated cartoon he did in 1921. And Randolph Hearst told him to quit doing animation because it was infringing on his political cartoons. So because he wasn't really independent, he had to stop doing animation. But I remade the film because it was sort of falling into obscurity. So what I did was I took every frame and cleaned it up. Not me, but my staff, all the scratches and the dust and the dirt. We cleaned up every frame.
Sure.
And we put a color in there, and we did a musical soundtrack. And we had voices. Matthew Modine did a voice and some other famous people. and took out all of the word balloons and the intertitles, rather. And so it really zips along now. It's like 8-minute film now. It used to be 12. And I think this is what Winsor McCay would have done if he was alive today. This is the cartoon that he would have made. And it's really weird that when you watch the film, it's called The Flying House, you see a lot of Up, the Pixar film in there. And I think the guys at Pixar really stole from Winsor McCay to make the film Up, if you see the two films side by side.
Wow, it sounds like you did a really loving tribute.
Yeah, and I got a lot of static from it. People say, oh, you're ripping off Winsor McCay, you're grave robbing, all this really sick stuff. But, it's just, I want to make him more well-known. I wanted to spread his word, his genius around, and that was only my only motivation. I made no money on it. It was just purely a work of love.
It might be nice if you recorded yourself doing some sort of a introduction, and putting it in front of it. I did. Oh, okay.
I made a DVD. It's called The Flying House, and it's about an hour long. So we showed the original version, what it looked like. And I even went out to his house. He had a house in Sheepshead Bay, which is his studio, where he did all of his cartoons. It was kind of a mansion, and they're transforming it into a multi-unit condo. And so I was in there just when they were starting to change all the rooms, and I sat in the room where he worked and everything. And I certainly talked a lot about my love for Winsor McCay and how much, pretty much what I'm telling you, the genius of the man. So that's also in the DVD. People, if they want to find out more about it, they, like you say, go to plymptoons.com and you can find the DVD. It's called The Flying House. I think it's only $10 now. I'm lowering my DVD prices.
Well, that's great. I think it's a real testament to, like you said, about Winsor McCay. This is before, the age of the internet. So the fact that that man was able to reach people the way that he did, that's saying something about the work. And again, that's what I wanted to tie that back into you, because I think you've had that influence on people before it was so easily shareable.
I hope so. That'd be nice. I don't know for sure if that's it, but that would be nice if that was true.
Well, you had that effect on me, so I can at least speak for that much.
Oh, good. Okay.
And I know you're a busy man, so I just wanted to say thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us here at Stay Tuned.
Sure. Thank you very much. And watch for my new film, Slide. It'll be out in about 2 years. So, you can keep checking into our website and you can find out more about it.
That's excellent. Thank you so much.
You bet. My pleasure, Phil.
That musical moment by Maureen McElherron was from Bill Plympton's original animated short, Your Face. McElherron has continued to collaborate with Bill through the years for numerous shorts, including How to Kiss, The Tooned, Sex and Violence, and Guide Dog. Well, that about wraps it up for this premiere episode. Special thanks go out once again to Bill Plympton for joining us here on the show. And of course, thanks to all of you listening in at home. If you're interested in supporting me and Stay Tuned, please check out patreon.com/Phil Machi. Subscribing there will get you access to cool rewards like exclusive interview outtakes, my film reviews, and even monthly video updates. Hey, and for more fun, check out my original comic books at retailsunshine.com. Feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook under the handles of both Retail Sunshine and Phil Machi. Oh, and don't forget to join the amazing Stay Tuned community on Facebook. Just visit facebook.com/groups/Stay Tuners. I've been Phil Machi, you've been a wonderful audience, and until next time, keep those eyeballs peeled, those ears open, and be sure to stay tuned.